And we are live on a beautiful Sunday morning for me in San Diego, for Jeremy somewhere in the East Coast in some kind of swamp or something like that. I don't know. I think Central Time, but whatever. It's morning for me, morning for you. What we are all here to talk about NFL Sunday, Week 12 pregame, because that's what this channel is all about. Sports, NFL, and these big matchups. Jeremy, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Ready to get some NFL discussion going. We have been slacking on this because we've been so buried with our Geeks and Gamers content. But you and I talked a couple weeks ago. We were actually going to do this last week, but we ended up doing a 7-hour EFAP over on Mahler's channel. So here we are this week, and we're going to try to start doing this every week, trying to get our audience used to this because we've got a lot of potential here with this channel, and we got to be consistent with our coverage. So we're going to start doing a weekly pre-NFL hype, and then maybe we'll do something later on in the day too. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is it's easy to get lost and caught up because this sports thing, the sports YouTube thing is so much it's a different animal than the rest of everything. It's very immediate, and it's tough to keep up with that sometimes. But we are here, and we always have to bring the expertise with us, right? Because we're just two dudes. We're just talking shit online. Anybody can do that. But we got one guy here who has been there, who has seen it, who knows the ropes. And here he is, the observant lineman, Uche Waneri. What's going on, sir?
What is up? Sports Wars. What's going on?
What's going on, my friend?
It's a beautiful Sunday.
I wore something for you. I wore my Patriots gear for you. So.
Well, I knew he would. What's up, guys? How y'all doing out there, Sports Wars?
We are ready for some football today, man.
Some big games going on tonight. It's getting close to clutch time.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Some of these afternoon games, little hit or miss as it gets to this point in the NFL season when some teams have completely given up hope and, they're basically eliminated already. And then you also have the teams who are looking to kind of assert where they lie in the playoffs. And we've got a couple big games like that. So we can go ahead and talk about the big one that I know that Peter Karen right here really wants to get to. He says, boo Patriots. Well, Patriots are playing the Cowboys in the afternoon today, and that is setting up to be a big matchup. Patriots, I'll tell you what, you can tell me, Jeremy, you probably watch them more closely than anybody else. The Patriots, the first several games of the season, they look very sharp. Tom Brady looked very sharp. These last couple games, although they've only lost one to the Ravens, they're looking a little iffy, especially that offense.
This is the worst offense I've ever seen in New England, and it's not breaking news to anybody. Brady's getting older. I still think he's still at the top of his game. He may not be the best quarterback in the NFL as we speak. I don't think that's realistic to ask a 42-year-old quarterback. But, from a mental standpoint, this is still Tom Brady, and he's still as good as anybody when the moment is needed. But this offense is really bad. They are – I don't even know some of these people he's throwing to right now. I mean, obviously Gronk retired. Edelman's been banged up all year. Josh Gordon didn't, work out. This is why Antonio Brown. I mean, we saw Brady really embrace Antonio Brown because I think even with all the questions with Antonio Brown, I think he was very much needed right now for this offense. So luckily, the defense is pulling it together. That's not really been the story in New England in the last few years. It kind of has been driven by the offense, but now the defense is top tier. But this offense is ugly. We saw it last year with Tom Brady in his post-game press conference. You could tell he's very frustrated right now with this offense. He's doing what he can, but it's pretty ugly right now. We'll see how it turns out. But the Patriots seem to go through this every year. There's always that doubting phase, and they always figure it out when it comes to December. So, but this is going to be an interesting matchup today. I think this will probably be one of the most viewed regular season games probably of the year, maybe the most viewed regular season game of the year, because you're talking about probably the two most prominent teams in the NFL from fan base, marketing, everything like that. Obviously, the Cowboys are the top dog, and they've been really hit or miss. But this will be an interesting matchup, and there's going to be a lot of excitement around it. It's going to tell us a lot about both teams, I think. So I'm definitely interested in it for sure. And what's Brady? Brady's. I got a notification today. I was just looking it up right now. Brady's was questionable today, and of course he's kind of always on the injury report, but
they like to scare teams.
Yeah. So he is officially going to start, but he's. Let's see. Not surprisingly, Tom Brady, who appeared on the Patriots injury report as questionable Friday, will be under center. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. It's going to be pretty interesting for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, real quick, $2 super chat from Rhodes Rants. Go Niners! I took the Cowboys, which hurts. And we'll see. I do think it's going to be a really good game. What are your thoughts on this game, Uche? We kind of heard that Patriots perspective. What do you think the Cowboys are going to be able to do against them?
Well, this is probably the biggest game of the season in the NFL thus far, just because of the position that both teams are in. Cowboys have the lead in the NFC East, and obviously you have the Patriots, who are the Patriots, right? But are they the Patriots? Tom Brady struggled. The offense has struggled. And like Jeremy said, they're going to be looking to bring in somebody to help give Tom Brady a consistent target. He doesn't have Gronk out there at the tight end position to fall back on. And the Cowboys are trying to kind of still trying to find their stride, in the season. They started off on fire to begin the year. And, me, myself, I grew up a 49ers fan living in Dallas. So, that super chat, I understand where he's coming from with his hate for the Cowboys. But when you look at the Cowboys season, every win that they've had has been by at least 2 scores. They haven't been in a game where they're, where it's down to the wire necessarily. And they have, come out on top big when they win, but they've also struggled. There's been a little bit of up and downs with Dak Prescott. But overall, they're starting to find their stride right about at the right time. November is obviously a huge month, but December is right around the corner, and December is do or die in the NFL. That's when you find out who is going to, be taking the top spots in the playoff picture. And right now, for both teams, a loss means you've given up some of that lead. You've given up some ground. And the Cowboys, honestly, the Eagles are right there. 1 or 2 weeks where they're not on top of their game, and the Eagles are right there to take the lead in the division. So this game is going to be a huge barometer game for the Cowboys. They're going to see where they're really at, because at the end of the day, the Patriots still have 1 loss. So, you're going up against a team that has a Super Bowl pedigree. You're going up against a team that has found ways to win defensively, not just through the arm of Tom Brady. And in a situation like this where we knew eventually, it seemed like it was never coming, but eventually Brady was going to hit a slump of some sort. It was inevitable. He doesn't have the same talent around him that he's had. And even at that, how many of us can name more than one receiver for the New England Patriots over the last 10 years? Yeah. Much less, just this season. But he always had that safety blanket at tight end to fall back on. He doesn't have that. So, this is a team that is uncharacteristically having to win through all 3 phases of the game. Special teams, offense, and defense. They have to be able to put together solid games from each side to get across the finish line. So I expect them to do. I expect it to be the same this week or today. I expect them to have a heavy reliance on their defense making plays, and at some point Brady is going to flip that switch. It's going to come back. But does he have the talent? Will the talent around him, hold up, or will it let him down? That's going to be the biggest question in my eyes.
Well, the whole thing too is the AFC is there's only like one or 2 teams that they really have to worry about in the long run. And in reference to today, it's going to be interesting, but just overall, like the AFC is so like with Mahomes, KC, that was supposed to be the big challenge for them, and they seem to have really fallen off. It looks like the Ravens might be the only team, and playing Belichick twice in a season is never a good sign. But I tell you what, they're going to want that home field advantage, though.
That with the way the Ravens were, with what the Ravens were able to do to them, I think was a little unexpected for some people, me included. I thought that this was finally going to be the moment that we saw that brilliant mind of Bill Belichick come through and stop Lamar Jackson. That's what I thought we were going to see. And I was completely, I have doubted Lamar Jackson for a year and a half. I thought it was a joke when the Ravens got up to get him. I didn't think the guy was going to be able to throw. I didn't think he'd be able to really play quarterback in the NFL. And I'm done doubting him at this point. I'm just going to kind of watch and enjoy like everyone else.
Yeah, he has been a freak of nature to the football world. I mean, probably something that we haven't necessarily seen since Michael Vick. But he can throw, and he does make good decisions. He doesn't hurt the team with his decision making, and that's huge. That's been really the Achilles heel of these, dual threat quarterbacks who can run, who can throw. Is that third element, decision making, wasn't as consistent, and he has seemingly changed that perspective on that on how his game was going to come together. And I mean, it's you can't doubt him at this point.
Yep.
And we have seen things like this where guys that we thought were one thing, they get a coach that builds a good program around them and allows them to do the things they do well, and they can excel. I mean, we saw that with Jared Goff and McVay, and now they seem to have taken almost a little step backwards there. You could say similar things for Mitch Trubisky last year with Matt Nagy. It seemed like they had a good thing going. Trubisky was limited, but that offense was still doing things. And this year, it's just really come back to a standstill. Do you think that could be a factor of people just figuring out, like, you're going to have this guy if you're doing things with him, but over the next offseason, they're going to look at that film, break it down, understand exactly what's going on, and put a stop to that?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Jimmy.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it's a 6-month turnaround in the NFL, and we've seen so many fads come and go in the NFL, like the Wildcat, like, the read option had its moment really in the sun for a while, and then it's kind of died down. Because at the end of the day, when there's an opportunity to build a game plan to exploit or to try and combat these kind of niche phases that come into the league, in about 2 years, it's figured out, both on offense and defense. I remember when I came into the league my rookie year, on defense, there was this new style of blitz, and it's called, it's pretty common blitz now, but at the time, it was the cross dog. And the way that the cross dog worked, Pittsburgh kind of pioneered it, where you had a safety playing center field, but nearly in the box in Troy Polamalu. And then you had your Mike and your Sam Backer, who stacked up almost on top of each other in the middle of the defensive formation. And at the snap, they would cross on their blitz, and they would. We watched film on it for weeks, and you just see offenses not knowing how to handle it. Nobody understood really what was going on, and Pittsburgh was eating off that blitz. They were massacring offenses because one of those guys was coming scot-free each time. And over the course of the next year, you started seeing other defenses run it. And then by the end of the second year of its life, it was a standard blitz. Offenses had adjusted. They're picking it up. It's not causing any damage. And then you find the liabilities in the back of the defense because of the hole that's left in the middle of the field. So teams started to scheme to stretch the edges of the field, exposing the middle, and now it's a blitz that you see once or twice a game in situations that are more red zone, where there's not so much field behind you on defense to give up, trying to make the offense, trying to force them into a quick decision. So with this quarterback situation with Lamar Jackson, I just really think that his skill set right now is just not something that defenses are able to handle. And I'm not so sure it's going to be something they can just adjust to on the fly, because the guy doesn't have to run. He can sit in that pocket and throw the ball around with the best of them. And that makes him, that's what makes him a triple threat to a defense. And if he can be consistent in that in years to come, it could change the way that the game is played as a whole.
That's a good point. Good point. I agree with everything he said in terms of NFL's going to catch up with it. That's why gimmicks don't last. They're temporary. They're very temporary in the NFL. We've seen it time and time and time again. So at the end of the day, Goober Brothers Entertainment, or I'm sorry, who was it? It was Rockrin. Yeah, who always wins the Super Bowl, though? Pocket quarterback always wins the Super Bowl. And that's generally how it works. Occasionally you'll see a temporary thing succeed in the NFL for a short period of time, but at the end of the day, it always comes back to the thing that consistently has always worked.
Fundamental.
We all remember the Wildcat and all of that, and my
defenses were getting shredded by it. The best defenses were just like, phew, there they go, they're running. Yeah. Miami Dolphins, Super Bowl,
so. That's the NFL figures it out. You can do gimmicks for a short period of time, but it's not the way you get long-term success in the NFL for sure.
Yeah.
And it's definitely an off-season adjustment thing. It's tough to do that kind of thing in mid-season when everybody's run down, from my understanding at least. So, but kind of back to this game. So Patriots, Cowboys, who do you guys got? Who's going to walk away with it tonight?
It's a hard one to call.
It is. New England is really bad right now on offense. It's really bad. But
if their offense was half as good as you expect it to be, I would go with the Patriots, with no doubt. But that's hard. The Cowboys have offensive firepower. They do. And I mean, for the Patriots' sake, they have a good defense. And that defense has shown that they can make plays against the best offenses. Now, Dak also provides somewhat of a threat as a runner, but that's not necessarily his cup of tea. But they've got a great offensive line. They've got a stout receiving core, and again, I think it boils down to what kind of day is Dak Prescott going to have, and what kind of day is Tom Brady going to have. If one is having a better day than the other, I think that that team will likely win the game, but. For me right now, if I had to pick, I'm not going to bet against Tom Brady. I'm still going to go with the Patriots on this one.
Yeah, and it's in New England, so I don't know what the weather's like up north today, but
it's going to be rainy and 42.
Give me Tom Brady all day long in that. Give me all day long. Brady in that weather.
Yeah, and I think that everything we've said is obviously accurate about Dallas is loaded right now on offense and on defense. They're really healthy. Their only real injury is Van Der Esch, and they have really good depth at that position. And at the end of the day, I am going to take the coaching matchup, and I just trust Bill Belichick infinitely more than I trust Jason Garrett. And I really think that the end of the season, that we might have finally seen the end for Jason Garrett. This is the Cowboys' opportunity to win, and if they don't, I think Jerry's going to make a change.
Yep.
But
I played my last season in Dallas, and Jason Garrett was probably the least inspirational, least motivational head coach I've ever been around. He seemed more like the puppet than the puppet master, and I just never really got a vibe from him that he was really the kind of head coach that you can look to make a big decision and to make it in a way that. That benefits the team. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, the people on that staff, there is a large pedigree of long NFL talent, family-like talent in their coaching staff. But Jason Garrett is not. I don't think he's at the top of that tree when it comes to the authority and the inspiration that a head coach is supposed to provide. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, he's always definitely seemed more like a coordinator, and that's kind of like his role that I've seen him in. But
he has succeeded well beyond his talent.
And not because of him. You know what I mean? It's he has people that are on that coaching staff that have decades upon decades of NFL knowledge and talent, and that roster has always been among the top 3 or 5 teams in terms of talent in the NFL for going on a decade. So they have, it's the Cowboys. They have that pedigree. They have that credibility as a franchise. But for him as a coach, I can name 10 or 12 coaches that are 2 steps ahead of him.
Yeah. And I think we can all agree Jerry has always kind of wanted him there because he can't control him. I think that's part of why he's been the selection and had such a long rope.
Yeah.
But you brought up another team. You brought up the Eagles, who are kind of right there in the mix. They're sitting at 5-5 right now, so this is going to be a big game for them. They host the Seahawks, who are 8-2. The Seahawks, who I'll be honest, when the Legion of Boom kind of fell apart, and that defense looked like it was going to, take a step back, Russell Wilson has just continued to improve and improve. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on Seahawks at Eagles and what that means for the NFC?
I'm with you on the Seahawks in terms of I never gave Russell Wilson enough credit. I was wrong about that, and I've said I was wrong. I always felt that he was more of a system quarterback, and I really hate that argument usually because I tend to be able to see beyond that. But yeah, he's great. He's great. He is a great quarterback, and I love the guy. And I've always liked him as a person. I mean, he's a good leader, and he's always been that type of guy. But he's talented as hell, and he has proven me wrong. In terms of the Eagles, I think they're one of the most disappointing teams this season right now because I think a lot of people had them for the playoffs and maybe a strong Super Bowl contender. Carson Wentz, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't know if the injury really affected him for the long-term aspects of him or if the league has just caught up to him because we remember a few years ago before that injury, he was on pace to be the NFL MVP that year between him and Brady at that point in time. And he's just never been able to get back to that form. But I am going to go my gut tells me that the Eagles are going to pull this out today, and I don't know if that's – I'm just going to have to go with my gut, though. I mean, I think they have to. Like, they have to win this game. It's absolutely crucial for them. So I'm going to go with the Eagles in an upset against the Seahawks, and I think I'm probably going to regret that, but that's my gut feeling on it.
Eagles at home, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Philly's a hard place to play at. I played there a few times. Hard crowd. Those guys play with a lot of energy at home. They've got the full backing of that stadium. But with that being said, Carson Wentz has, like Jeremy said, it's been an ugly year for him. Hasn't been. It's had some big ups and downs. Really streaky, and he doesn't have Nick Foles there to pick up the slack. Nick Foles famously in the last couple of seasons has lifted the Philadelphia Eagles into the realm of contender with his play despite Carson Wentz, because Carson Wentz has not really shown the level of playmaking ability that we've seen or that we saw earlier in his career before he was injured. And I got to say that today, with everything on the line, the only thing that maybe a saving grace for them is that this isn't a divisional matchup. But I got to say that, with Russell Wilson and the way he's been playing this season, MVP caliber season, only thing that can get in the way of him more than likely taking that title is Lamar Jackson. And what he's been able to do in the past 5 years or so since they won their Super Bowl, their last Super Bowl, the guy has been a top shelf quarterback consistently. And that is something that I expect to carry on. And that team has always been a team that's been well coached, that's been well disciplined. They may not have been winning on the same level that they had in the past, but this year these guys have elevated their game across the board. And I fully expect that Seattle's going to take the win by maybe 2 scores tonight or today. Yeah,
and I saw Roser, if those receivers can catch the ball, Jeffrey's a go today. I actually saw 20 minutes ago that Alshon Jeffrey is out along with Nelson Aguilar officially. So maybe that's changed in the past 20 minutes. They upgraded him again. But, really one of the issues in Philly is the fact that they've got these receivers that can't get any separation. So Carson Wentz is having a tough time finding open receivers. He's not the guy that's going to throw receivers open like you see, guys like Breeze be able to do. And even like we saw Foles when he was in the zone be able to do at times, just kind of throw it up there. You heard this it was such a stupid cliche. You heard it a million times. Like, oh, Nick Foles played basketball. Alshon Jeffrey played basketball. Look, they're just throwing it up to each other like alley-oops.
As if that has anything to do with football.
I know, but that is how Foles was able to play. He's able to trust them and throw them open. And that's what you have to do with these big body wide receivers. And Wentz has not been able to do that so far. And I am kind of with you, Uche. I think that, Russell Wilson, 23 touchdowns, 2 interceptions this year. He's playing the best in his career for a dude who's had a very good career so far. And I think that they're going to come in and stomp the Eagles, and the Eagles are pretty much, they'll be 5-6 if they lose this game. So not out of it, but definitely not.
It'll be a big blow if they lose. I don't expect that it's going to be that close a game. I think it's going to be a 10-point game at the least. That's just because of the consistency that Seattle's playing with. Philly's not playing with that consistency. They got blown out by the Atlanta Falcons. Am I correct? Or was that them? Or that was the Saints. That was the Saints. That was the Saints.
Yeah.
My bad.
But if they this game is crucial to the Eagles right now. I mean, if Dallas loses, it puts Dallas at 6-5, and that'll put Philadelphia at 6-5 if Philly wins. So they'll be tied for the division lead. This is a crucial game for them, and I just have a gut feeling that they're going to pull it out. But I know that's probably, if I'm betting man, I'm not betting on the Eagles, but my gut tells me Eagles today just because they're desperation mode, and they have the talent. They just get to figure out how to execute, And like you said, they need to get some separation. And right now, if anything, it's crazy to think about the fact that Seattle's weakness is their defense right now. That's shocking. So I'm going to stick with my gut, and I'm going to go with the Eagles. But if you're a betting person, don't listen to me. So,
they got blown out by the Cowboys. That's what I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Sir Ruin of House Ron had for $4.99. Thank you. And he brings up something we talked about a little bit before, but you brought it back, Uche, with that MVP talk. What are your overall thoughts on the Ravens and Lamar Jackson? Do you think the Ravens are the best team in the NFL? And does Lamar look like the MVP?
I think that Lamar Jackson is the front runner for the MVP right now. Right behind him is Russell Wilson. I can't say that the Ravens are like the best team in the NFL. Man for man, they're not the best team. But right now, they are the hottest team in the NFL. They're on a streak. These guys are running hard. They're playing well. Defense playing well. Offense is on fire, as you see with Lamar Jackson on the highlight reels on ESPN every other day. But I really think that it's going to come down to him and Russell Wilson. And if I had, and I would say that those two teams themselves are probably the two best teams, 1A and 1B in the NFL right now, just because what they have right now is consistency. And it seems like every other team in the NFL that is competing to, get into the postseason right now, every one of those teams outside of these two teams has struggled with consistency at some point. And right now, most of them are struggling with consistency or trying to find their stride heading into the last month of the season. But you have Seattle, you have Baltimore, who found that stride 3 weeks ago, and they're moving with that stride. They're moving forward with that right now. It's really the unstoppable force meets the unmovable object. Are they on a collision course for the Super Bowl? We'll see. But I think right now it's a two-man race for the MVP. It's Lamar Jackson, and it's definitely Russell Wilson.
I think that I don't disagree with anything Uche said right now. Lamar Jackson has had his quote-unquote Heisman moment this year when he did what he did against New England on a big stage. And anytime you beat New England, you're going to get a lot of headlines. You can't deny what Russell Wilson's doing with 23 touchdowns and 2 interceptions right now. And he is carrying that team. I do think that there's one person that has some potential to get involved in that MVP race, and that's Aaron Rodgers. Depending on what happens tonight, if on a big stage, marquee game against the 49ers, if Aaron Rodgers comes and shows out like we know Aaron Rodgers can, I think Aaron Rodgers can put himself in that MVP conversation tonight with a big performance. And what would that make what are the Packers? The Packers are 8-2. So if the Packers are 9-2 and they knock off the 49ers, and Aaron Rodgers goes for, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns against this defense, that's going to put him at the top or near the top of the MVP conversation. So it's early still. We still got several weeks to go, but at this moment right now, if you had to have me choose an MVP, I would say it's Lamar Jackson, followed closely by Russell Wilson. But after tonight, if Aaron Rodgers shows up and shows out, I think he's going to be right there in that conversation too.
Yeah, and there's a guy, I've seen a couple names in chat who, and we can get to that game right now, who if he had a actual quarterback around him right now, we might be talking about him for MVP, and that's Christian McCaffrey, who is having an insane year. The dude's got 1,100 yards rushing, over 500 yards receiving, on pace to break, Chris Johnson's, all-purpose yards record. So that is a dude right now. You've got the Panthers at the Saints. The Panthers are 5-5. If you would have told me before the season that Cam Newton would only play one game, and the Panthers would still be in the playoff hunt,
and have an MVP caliber candidate still on the team, you're like, what? No way.
I would have, kind of rolled my eyes, but that's what the Panthers are doing. That defense is making plays. Kyle Allen is, he looks a little lost sometimes, but other times he's looked really good. So, they're going in. That's kind of a really big game for them. They can get to 6-5, kind of get a little more control in that wild card race. But what are you guys' thoughts on the Panthers going into a New Orleans team that just got blown out by Atlanta Falcons last week?
Yeah, I think the Saints are going to respond. I think the Saints are going to respond big time because they got the shit beat out of them last week. And that was shocking. And I don't know why that happened, but Sean Payton's a great coach. He's going to be able to get his team back together. Obviously, Drew Brees is one of the best leaders in the NFL. And I think New Orleans is going to respond big time. What did last week? What did the Panthers do last week? I can't remember.
Their quarterback threw 4 interceptions.
Yeah, 4 picks. That's right. And yeah, it's McCaffrey. I can't. Could you imagine what McCaffrey could do in a New England or a Green Bay right now? Oh my gosh, it's scary to think what he could do in Green Bay. I mean, it's scary. It's even scary to think what he could do in Green Bay over New England, because New England always kind of they distribute everything around, so they don't rely on. But if he was in Green Bay, whew. But you can't deny what the guy's bringing to the table. He's the one keeping them relevant, and he definitely deserves to be in the conversation. But ultimately, it's typically a quarterback award, and that's just how it goes, unless you're just absolutely exceptional, which he is being exceptional, but his team isn't exceptional, and that's just part of it, unfortunately. But I look for New Orleans to respond in a big way today. I look for Drew Brees to come out firing, guns a-blazing. So I think it's going to be an entertaining game, but New Orleans all the way.
The Carolina Panthers remind me of the 2011 Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of similarities in that team and the team that I was on in 2011, where you have a running back who is, by all intents and purposes, an MVP level player in the league. We had Maurice Jones-Drew then, and it's Christian McCaffrey now, a player who can catch the ball, run with the ball, block, and who can, who is the heart of the team at the end of the day. And it is a shame that he's not going to get that MVP nod for the kind of season that he's having. And it boils down to, again, the fact that regardless of how good his season is going, regardless of how dominant he seems to be as a player, you have to have a team that's winning games. You have to have a team that is showing that, that is benefiting from that play in the biggest way possible, and that's with W's. And again, the quarterback position has a ton to do with that. If the quarterback in Carolina, Chris Allen, right?
Kyle Allen.
Kyle Allen. If he is playing, just a little bit better, and they're looking at, maybe 7-4 right now instead of 5-5, then there's a little bit more weight to that discussion about Christian McCaffrey and the MVP vote. But for the inconsistencies that they've had because of the quarterback position, and Allen has had good games, but again, last week was a huge step back in a game that they had to have. He threw 4 interceptions, and that cost them dearly. So I don't necessarily see them as being able to get over that hump this week, because you are going up against a New Orleans team that has a lot to speak for based on what happened to them last week. They can't come out here and have a performance that represent or mimics anything like it was against Atlanta. They have to come out on firing on all cylinders, and I think that Sean Payton will have them ready for that. He is just that kind of coach. He's not going to let his team come out here and get, submarined again. So I expect that New Orleans will handle this game. Again, I think it's going to be a 2-score game, 10 to 14 points. But you're going to see all the things that you expect to see from a player like McCaffrey on the Panthers side. But again, you're going to have that well-oiled machine of Drew Brees and company coming out, and it's a divisional game, so that makes it even that much more important for the Saints and their positioning for the postseason. So I expect them to have a pretty solid all-around game on offense, defense, and special teams, and I'm thinking it's going to be a solid win for the Saints.
Yeah.
Captain Smith said, Uche, were you playing for the Jaguars in 2014? I saw them play my Cowboys in one of the London games last year.
No, I didn't. I was off the Cowboys by that time, but he
was asking about the Jaguars, but either way, it applies. You weren't playing for the Jaguars in 2014, and you were already off the Cowboys by then too.
Yeah. 2013 was my last season in Jacksonville. 2013-2014 season.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and somebody brought it up in chat. Yeah, I was on that Atlanta game was 2 weeks ago. They came out and beat the Bucs last week. Which
isn't really a big thing to worry about. They're beating the Bucs. So James,
we forgot it was the Bucs.
Yeah.
It might as well not even have been a game.
Yeah.
How many people has Jameis Winston raped this year? Jesus. Just curious. And so,
whoa,
is it over or under how many picks he's thrown? That's always the question. It's a big number.
Hate Jameis Winston. God, that dude.
The guy,
man.
I don't. It's funny because I would have never expected. Watching him in college, I was like, this guy isn't a good quarterback. Like, why is everybody talking about being, a first-round, top 10, first overall pick? This guy doesn't – it looks like he doesn't have great vision. He doesn't have a great throwing motion. His balls are all over the place in terms of, spiral and tightness. And, what makes you think that he's going to be a good quarterback? He doesn't even have the mental – it doesn't even seem that he has the mental capacity to have that kind of focus that a good quarterback has to play at a consistent level. He's all over the place, and his career has been all over the place. I mean, you've seen little flashes here and there, but nothing that lasts more than a few weeks.
I'll be honest. I mean, watching him in college, I actually thought he would be better than what he is. I thought he had what it took from a physical standpoint to be a good quarterback in the NFL, but not a mental standpoint. I always question his mental capacity and his decisions, his off the field decisions,
decision making,
unbelievable.
Off the field makes him. That can make you a bad player.
Absolutely can. I mean, I know I sing the praises of Tom Brady all the time, but Brady's not the most physically gifted fucking quarterback. I think we all know this, but mentally, he's probably by far the most gifted quarterback we've ever seen.
Ever been.
Yeah, and that translates to the field, and that makes up for any physical deficiencies he may have against someone like an Aaron Rodgers, who's clearly got more physical gifts than Tom Brady. But the mental side of being a quarterback and an NFL player in general, but so it's all NFL players. You have to have the mental capacity. You got to have that. Uche knows that better than anybody, but when you're lacking it as much as Jameis Winston is, it's ugly. It's ugly.
It looks bad. And I mean, there's nothing that speaks to that more than the fact that he has gone through head coaches, coordinators, and nothing has changed. There hasn't been the scheme has changed, the individuals coaching him have changed, but nothing in his play has elevated at any consistent level to warrant the kind of money that he's going to be asking for after this season, and it's weird. Almost like in the NFL nowadays, they pay these quarterbacks by default, not even really due to the actual performance on the field. You were a starting quarterback. Here's $100 million. What?
Because it's like, well, who else are you going to get? That's like what they always say, right? Yeah.
Who was it? Tannehill? Tannehill's the perfect example of this. Like, you got a quarterback in Miami who has not even been to the playoffs. But you're going to give him $115, $120 million for what? For what? And that's where I look at Jameis Winston and I say, he's a backup quarterback at best at this point, at best, and a free agent more likely. If I'm a GM looking at him, that's how I put his portfolio together. This guy is not a starting quarterback, and he is not, he's not the guy you're looking for to get into the playoffs or to get to the Super Bowl. He is strictly just a quarterback. And
somebody call Fitz Magic, baby. Where's Fitz Magic when you need it?
Fitz Magic.
He's starting today. He's starting.
I know. But Fitz Magic is kind of like Mike Zero. He can kind of be at a lot of places at one time. Maybe he can just Fitz Magic is going to be the first quarterback to start for multiple teams in the same day. That's how good he is.
Well, and that's the thing. He basically is Jameis Winston. You just don't have to pay him as much. He is a dude who's gonna boom or bust. He's gonna turn the ball over a lot, but he's gonna make some deep plays down the field. So yeah, Jameis Winston.
Fearless. Fitzpatrick is fearless, and that's why he comes in. And regardless of what team he's on, he's gonna come in from the bench and he's gonna throw 3 touchdowns. And then after the game, he's gonna be wearing this open collar, open button shirt with all his taco meat sticking out, with the aviators on, talking shit like he's been starting for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
When in truth, he really has been starting for the last 3 seasons with like 8 different teams getting it done. And he's a guy that's a 3-game spurt guy. He'll give you 3 amazing games, and then he's falling off that cliff. And when it's coming, he'll point to you and let you know, hey, coach, next week, it's over. It's over.
Yeah. But yeah, both Winston and Mariota, the 2 top picks from that draft, both are probably going to be on different teams next year from what it looks like. So both disappointing overall for those franchises. But
I think Mariota is, I haven't labeled him a bust yet, just because it's something about being the quarterback in Tennessee. I mean, we played them twice a year my entire career in Jacksonville. And it was always a journeyman position for them, the quarterback position. They always had a journeyman quarterback. It was never a guy who looked like he was the franchise quarterback moving forward for the team. And Mariota, I just don't think his style of play is really compatible with what the identity of the Titans has been over the past decade. I mean, I think that he would have fit somewhere much better, like a Sam Fran. I think he would have fit in Seattle much better. I think he would have fit with a team like the Chargers or even
the Eagles with the RPO stuff that they were doing.
Yeah, even the Eagles. I think he is a quarterback that fits better into a scheme that is more of with a team that has a more open offense. The Titans are a very prototypical pro-style offense. They get under the center. They run I formation, they run power formations, and they go into the gun when they got to throw the ball. But his style, the way that he played in college and how they have him in the NFL are just not compatible at the moment. So I think when he does leave Tennessee, you're going to see a kind of a better, you're going to have a better representation of what kind of player he is based on the next team that he goes to. And then I think we can look at him and say, all right, bust or not. But right now,
I've never been a big Mariota fan all the way back to Oregon. I just never believed in him as an NFL quarterback. And it's weird how I look at that. I mean, I was talking to Ryan about this earlier, how, looking at where the situation with the Bengals are and how they're 0-10. And I've been I jumped off the Andy Dalton. Well, I was never on the Andy Dalton bandwagon to begin with, but I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. I just think he's never going to get you to where you need to go. And I was never, as an Alabama fan, I never believed A.J. McCarron was a starting NFL quarterback. But I did believe that he did give them a better chance to win than Andy Dalton in Cincinnati when he was the backup there. And but it's weird how I look at certain quarterbacks in college. And Mariota was just one that I just didn't believe in terms of being a starting NFL quarterback because of his play style. Because I feel like he's not Cam Newton in terms of his physical stature, Cam is a freak, you know what I mean? And you look at somebody like that, he's not. I don't feel Mariota can hold up with the NFL in terms of his style of play and his size and everything. So we'll see though. I still think we can't call him a bust yet, but time will tell. But Uche's right. I mean, Tennessee, when's the last time we had a good quarterback in Tennessee? Oh, we have McNair. Somebody in the chat just said that. Oh, Warren Moon. That's old school. That's Houston Oilers Day, baby.
Houston Oilers.
A long time ago.
One of the GOATs. He's one of the greatest ever, too. Warren Moon does not get mentioned on one of the greatest ever. That's mainly because he doesn't have a Super Bowl. But if you look at him, like Warren Moon, to me, is like right there with Dan Marino, as quarterback without a Super Bowl. But they were very similar in their how ridiculously talented they were.
Yeah.
So
Warren Moon was a huge talent. In an age where black quarterbacks were all in or all out as runners or passers, he was just a black guy, but he played like a regular white quarterback. He dropped his ass back. He couldn't run. He ain't outrunning nobody, but he's gonna drop back. He's gonna throw that ball with the best of them. Makes great decisions, and heck, dude, we all remember. That the guy was part of some of the best offenses, of his time in Houston. It's just at the end of the day, he didn't end up getting to the point where he could get that ring. And, like you said, he's going to end up kind of in that Dan Marino sphere where, you had a great career, you had a Hall of Fame career, but never really moved past, the first round of the playoffs. So,
Yeah.
I got to show you guys this because I just saw this on Black Adam Schefter's Twitter account. I don't know what the hell the Browns fans are doing right now. So we're gonna do a screen share. I got it
ready.
God, the Browns.
Oh my goodness! All right, you guys ready?
Wow, they're trying to hit a freaking Mason Rudolph.
God. With a helmet.
Look at these people.
Only Browns fans.
Damn, he's about to hit people in the crowd. They're like, whoa!
God. So I suppose that's a pretty good transition. Oh, Jesus.
Look at these bastards. Got him.
So I suppose that's a pretty good transition. Last Thursday night, we obviously had the horrendous act that was Myles Garrett hitting Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph did, for his part, take a little bit of the blame and say, no, I shouldn't have gone after him. And Myles Garrett gets suspended indefinitely during his appeal in a shocking turn of events. Myles Garrett claims that, this whole thing was started because Mason Rudolph used a racial slur, which, me and Uche talked about this a little bit.
Juicy Smollett.
Juicy, is that you?
Yes, exactly. And it just, it made me roll my eyes because every time you see, not every time, but a lot of times you see a black athlete that kind of loses control on the court, something that happens like that. We saw Russell Westbrook do it when he slapped the phone out of a fan's hand. And they used a racial slur, which no one else heard, no one else reacted to, no one in the stands heard it, no one on the field heard it, but they heard it in their heads. So I'll go ahead. I feel like Uche might be the best one to take this question first. Might have had some experience in it before. What do you think, Uche? What about this whole situation?
Look, it's unfortunate that he brought something like that to the public. And then, he didn't even bring it to the public. This was something that he brought up in his appeal hearing. But, look, my entire life as a football player, I don't think I've ever heard it. I don't think I've ever heard the N-word. I don't think I've ever heard a racial slur. And there's a reason for that, I think. And that's mainly because football, in a sense, transcends those issues in our society. It moves past those because of what's needed in order to actually accomplish anything as a team. It's a sport where you have guys from every walk of life. And, the numbers don't lie. Obviously, 75% of the NFL, 75%, I'm assuming, of football in general is African-American. It's the majority in the football world. And because of that, you're not going to find too many guys who are willing to risk their own safety by uttering a racial slur at another player on the field because not only are you now facing your opponent who is enraged over that, but you're going to be facing likely your own teammates who are enraged over that. So that puts you in quite the precarious position of now being attacked by everybody on the field. And, you know, the sport itself breaks that barrier, or breaks that entire concept of racism down, because you have to trust and rely on the man next to you. And that man, you know, can be from any part of society, can be from any walk of life. And, you know, it just doesn't fit into that world of football, into the structure of football. Racism just doesn't really have a spot. And, you know, this guy had what, 2 black teammates within vicinity, within an earshot, to hear something like that. Mason Rudolph, if he had said something like that, we would have heard about it right then and there. Undeniably. I think I could speak for every black athlete in football that if somebody called me the N-word, regardless of the situation, on the field, and it was said in a racially derogatory manner, one, we're both getting ejected because it's going to be a brawl. 2, everybody on my sideline will know exactly why there was a brawl, because I'll let them know right then and there. My teammates will know, my coaches will know, and the fans will know on my way out of the stadium to head to the showers. It's going to be known that this dude, this is why I snapped on him, because he called me this or he called me that. Post game, Myles Garrett doesn't mention a word. On the field, Myles Garrett doesn't mention a word. You know, for 6 days, you say nothing. There's no Twitter. There's no Facebook. There's no mention of it anywhere on the social blogosphere. And you wait until you get behind closed doors in what to me seems like a desperate attempt to mitigate the length of your suspension and the over $1 million that you're going to lose because of it. You bring up an accusation that has the ability to destroy this man's reputation just because you accused him of it, which I find to be disgusting. Because not only have you now questioned the entire integrity of a guy who has not shown for, you know, through anything that we've seen, has not given us a reason to believe that he's that kind of guy, regardless of what his views are on anything. He's never been misconstrued as somebody who is a racist. He's never had, there have not been any situations where he's gotten in any fights or had any tensions with other players of the team who are on his team who are black. His head coach is black. And, you know, for you to put that out there into the air in the society we live in today, where people will grab that and run with it and judge him, and now they'll label him moving forward in his life, that's going to follow him. That accusation and that uncertainty will follow Mason Rudolph for the rest of his football career and potentially, you know, the rest of his public life. And, you know, for me, I just felt like it was irresponsible to do that. And, you know, I'm not, you know, do we know if it's the truth or not? With certainty, we don't know. But we have about a 95% likelihood that it wasn't said, because of the aforementioned things that I just talked about and the responses you would have gotten on the field in that same night of that game. The response would have been hot and heavy from across the board on both sides, I believe. So, you know, as a player, you know, it's not something that I've ever experienced, and I can't say that, you know, that it really fits for him to make this accusation. And, you know, just looking at it from the outside, I really think that, you know, for him to even go there is, you know, he's there. It's a very slippery slope. And I feel bad in some degree for Mason Rudolph, because now that is going to be in the back of every evaluator's head. If he moves on from Pittsburgh and looks for work with other teams, that is going to be something that they're going to think about, regardless if, you know, it's just or not. It's just going to be part of their thought process, because you're, again, bringing a guy into a world that is a majority black in terms of its players. So Myles Garrett, you know, he has to be able to prove it before anybody can really, you know, look at him and accept what he's accusing Mason of right now. And for the black players in the league, I think that, his reputation is also on the line because once, if it's proven, and the NFL has obviously said that there is no evidence that he said anything of the matter or of that nature, but if it's conclusively proven that he did not utter anything like that, then I also think that Myles Garrett's reputation will take a massive hit as a wolf crier because you have now put another guy's entire reputation in doubt just to save your own ass, and that is a coward's way out.
Yep, I agree, and I can't really add anything else to it other than what Uche's already said. Fake racism claims have now become the new fake rape claims. It's just like we've all seen what people like Kobe went through and Tupac and all this stuff with this, and now it's just screaming racism, and it's you got to be an idiot at this point to make that accusation when you don't have any definitive evidence. But Uche's right. I mean, if regardless now, like Mason Rudolph, it's always gonna be questioned. He's always gonna be looked at differently by people, and it's stupid, man. And hopefully we'll get some actual truth to come out of this in time. But yeah, Uche said it best, so I got nothing else to add.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. And like I said, Myles Garrett's forever changed. His reputation's forever changed by this and a couple other incidents he's had this year. Kind of makes you question what happened then too. But
and I don't mean to cut you off, Ryan, but it's weird if you think about it now. If you actually go back and look at some of the things that Myles Garrett has done now, for somebody who claims to be a philosopher, mentality kind of player, for somebody who claims to be a deep thought, a highly intelligent individual, he's done a lot of dumb shit this season. And to me, you think about the situation where he had, and I'm not saying that this wasn't true, but you think about a situation where he says he got punched in the face by a fan after taking a selfie. All these things now come into doubt, and you go back and look at some of his game footage and how he plays on the field. I don't think that he necessarily is the guy that he's put himself out there to be, and I think over time he's going to be a little bit more exposed in regard to that. In regard to that kind of false nature of or that kind of a front, kind of a flexing kind of style of individual who isn't necessarily what he claims to be on the field or what he claims to be as a person. And I think that this was a perfect this situation with the helmet was something that kind of exposed that. And now even more so with him claiming that it was a racial slur used, I just don't buy his character, who he says that he is at this point.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. But we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the game that's going on Sunday night because of the implications it has for the NFC as a whole and football. And that is San Francisco and Green Bay. You got San Fran, who's 9-1, Green Bay, who's 8-2. Sunday night football primetime, everybody's going to be watching. It looks like George Kittle is going to be a go. I think he's going to be a kind of a game time decision, but he said that he is ready. It looks like he's probably going to go. What are your thoughts on this, Jeremy? We've got, San Francisco and Green Bay. Who's going to come out with this thing?
I am not a believer in Jimmy Pornstar, as Stephen A calls him. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo, if he looked like Nick Foles, he wouldn't have all the hype. That's the reality of it. He's always been built up to be this handsome quarterback and all this bullshit.
He's that old school quarterback.
I get. Yeah, he's not a bad quarterback by any means, but I mean the contract that he got is absolutely stupid. He's in a great situation right now in San Francisco. I think he is the weak link in San Francisco, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be bad. I mean, this is a really good football team in San Francisco. But in terms of tonight, I got a feeling Aaron Rodgers is going to show out. I got a feeling Aaron Rodgers is going to put up some big numbers against a really good opponent, and I think this is going to elevate him to the top of the MVP discussion. I do think San Francisco could be potentially the team that represents the NFC in the playoffs and then maybe into the Super Bowl. That's a big if, but they definitely have a great team and a good quarterback who can definitely manage the game. But Jimmy Garoppolo is not the guy that's going to carry you on his shoulders, at least at this point in time. I just don't see it. I think he's a good quarterback and he's on a great team. But I think the 49ers overall are maybe one of the they might be the best team in the NFL right now from top to bottom. They might. There's an argument to be made, but I also think Green Bay has a terrible defense, as they always have, but they have a great quarterback, and I think that there's new life within Aaron Rodgers this year with the coaching change. I've seen a change in his attitude. I've seen a change in the way he plays and the way he's doing things. So I'm going for Green Bay tonight. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to show up.
Honestly, it's hard to play on the West Coast. I think a lot of people don't understand how hard it is to go from one side of the country to the other side to play. And usually the team that's traveling to the West is at a substantial disadvantage going and playing out there because of obviously the time change and just the change in routine for a team when they have to go out and play on the West Coast. And I think that these things have effects mostly on the quarterback play. And this is a huge game, no doubt. And it's a game that when it starts at what time does the game start? At 7:30?
8:20 Eastern.
So 7:30 start or 8:20 start Eastern, which means it's starting at 5:00 in the afternoon on the West Coast. You're going to have a Green Bay team that's going to be playing in circumstances that feel more like something out of the Twilight Zone to start the game. But with that, I also think, again, it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. And
can I make a point real quick, Uche?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, just with it being a later start time, I think that's a little, and I think you obviously have valid points because we see this over and over again with the West Coast situation. But I think with the later start time, that's going to be a little more beneficial to Green Bay than a normal West Coast trip if you're going for the noon kickoff or something like that. I think that's going to be more beneficial. What is the weather like in Southern California today? Do we know? I mean, I know it's not. I know it's not nice. Green Bay level, but I'm saying, is it warm or what is it over there? I mean,
I don't know what it's going to be in San Francisco. I would imagine that it's going to be freaking I would imagine it's going to be about
70
55. Well, probably by that time it's going to be 55 or 60 and
clear. Let's see here. I'm taking a look real fast. I don't see any notes on the web. It's going to be. Let's see. It doesn't say the weather on here. It just says the stadium information. But
highlight David Morse's comment, please. It happened about 8 minutes ago. It's about a super chat to Nerdrotic. That's a pretty cool comment right there. But yeah, my bad, Uche. I just wanted to bring that point up though. So that is cool though. He said my super chat to Nerdrotic read like this, Jeremy. I was in London last week and by complete chance met a fellow subscriber to Geeks and Gamers in a London pub. That is amazing. I would love to know more details about how that happened. That's is crazy. Incredible. So thank you so much for that. And sorry we didn't get to all those super chats last night. Anyway, go ahead, Uche.
Well, I'm just looking at the matchup predictor here on ESPN, and I think it kind of speaks to that same kind of situation I was talking about with when you have an East Coast team or an Eastern America team flying all the way to the West Coast to take on a West Coast team. ESPN's looking at it 60 to 38 as in terms of the percentages of who will win the game, with 0.3% for a tie, 60.8 to 38.9 in favor of San Fran. It's going to boil down to how the quarterbacks play. And, Aaron Rodgers, for as great as he is, there have been times when, his play, because he's fearless, because he's a guy who will make huge throws, almost impossible throws, and make them look easy. There are times when that can that can sometimes catch up to him, and he has a game where he throws 2 interceptions, takes a few more sacks than he would like to, and while he's never buried his team, he has hurt his team at times because of his abilities and him having complete confidence in those abilities. But I think in this situation, San Fran has a good defense, not necessarily an all-world defense, but a good defense. They've got a very threatening offense in Jimmy G. If he's on his game, he can make defenses look silly. And Green Bay's defense has struggled. Green Bay's defense has given up a lot of points. So you're in a situation where you have, again, one side where where a team is hit its stride and is moving with a ton of confidence, and you have another team which is finding that stride, and they only have 2 losses, but there have been times when Green Bay has had to lean on, defensive play, or there's been times when they've had to lean on the mistakes of the other team to pull a win out. But I think that, again, Aaron Rodgers has a great game, then they have a better chance, and they have a solid chance at being in the game at the end to win it. But if he has, if he throws more than one interception, you could be looking at a situation where obviously San Francisco is going to be at a huge advantage, and Jimmy G is able to manage the game instead of having to win the game. And if they're in that position late in the second half, I would assume that San Francisco would be able to pull out the win.
Jay Rickman says Cowboys 60, Patriots 38. Are they playing in the Big 12? Good Lord. 60-38.
Who said that?
And then he also says, hire me as the Cowboys head coach. I bet you I can clap more. That's about the only thing that Jason Garrett does well.
Yeah, he's just like.
Yep, that's it.
He looks like he's always smiling.
Yep.
It's just, dude, when I was in Dallas, dude, I would be like, yo, take that fucking smile off your face. What are you smiling for?
But as for, this big game tonight, I do think that I actually think that San Francisco's front line is going to get to Aaron Rodgers early and often. That front line has been ridiculous this year, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be on his back a lot.
It's Bosa versus what's his name? The tackle from Green Bay. I forget his name. Starts with a B.
Bulaga. Brian Bulaga.
Bulaga, is that how you say it? I thought you said it some other kind of way. Okay, never mind.
But go ahead. Yeah, so and Bosa's been a monster, just like his brother. And so I think that's going to play a factor. And the fact that George Kittle is likely to be back. They are a different team and a different offense when George Kittle's on the field. That is the Gronk type comfort level that Garoppolo has with George Kittle. And, he's leading the team in, I think, receptions and receiving yards. Maybe not receiving yards. But,
and they got Emmanuel Sanders out there. And Emmanuel Sanders stretches the field, and he is a problem. He posed a lot of problems for defenses when he got into San Fran system coming out of Denver. So I expect this guy to be a big factor in the game as well.
Yep, absolutely. So I think that I'm going to give the edge a little bit to San Fran in this. It has nothing to do with the fact that I'm a Bears fan and I hate the Packers. It has nothing to do with that at all. Maybe a little bit, but we'll see. It should be a great game. Some good games, especially the afternoon and evening tonight. But we are going to wrap it up here and, get ready to actually watch these games. Jeremy, I know you've got a little channel somewhere other than Sports Wars. Where can people find you?
Geeks Plus Gamers.
He's saying that Geeks Plus Gamer.
No, but in all seriousness, I really just I've had fun. I definitely want to do more stuff here on the Sports Wars channel. It's going to take us some time to really develop, our fan base over here and everything. So we do appreciate everybody that's tuned into this live stream. We're going to try to do this every Sunday, a pre-Sunday kind of stream to kind of talk about the upcoming games. And I'd love to do one later in the afternoon after the games. It really just comes down if we have time and how everything works out, because after that late game, it is pretty late for some people. So, but we'll continue to monitor it. We do appreciate the support. Just subscribe to Sports Wars, stay tuned in, click the bell for notifications and everything like that. And if you guys aren't familiar with Geeks and Gamers, go subscribe to the Geeks and Gamers YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Uche, where can people find you?
So, again, love being here on Sports Wars. Love being able to sit down with you guys and chop it up about the coming games this week or today in the NFL. You can find me at my channel, my name, Uche Waneri. Type that in or look for the Observant Lineman.
Nobody knows how to spell that shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Nobody knows how to spell my name, but look up my name or look for the Observant Lineman, and you should be able to find my channel. Just go there, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you can get notified whenever I drop new videos. But again, I really appreciate being on here with Sports Wars guys. I love being a part of the squad. And like Jeremy said, we're going to keep building this thing. We're going to keep adding layers to it. And this is just one of those few wrinkles that we're putting in with a little pregame show before we start the NFL Sunday broadcast. So, looking forward to continuing this, and really had a good time today, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's go watch some football and eat some wings, drink some beer, and have a good time.
Yeah,
and,
I'm about to head down to my guy's spot down in the city. I'm about to go watch some games, eat some food.
There you go. Because it's football Sunday, and that's what you fucking do.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, have a good one, everybody. We will catch you next time.